Um,
Val suggested you raise your hand if you want to speak. Okay. Everybody know how to raise your hand? Of course, you're all muted. You can raise your hand that way, and there's a way on the bottom here. I'm looking for it. David, you know how to do it? A reaction, I believe. Nope. A raise hand. If you go on a regular computer, on the bottom of the right is a button that says reactions, and it says raise hand. That'll put a little hand icon in your window so that we can see that you want. If that doesn't work for you, just kind of wave your hand, say hi, and we'll try to let you in to speak when it's an appropriate time to speak. Let me give you a little bit of background. The Olive Conservation Advisory Council has been looking at what is called community choice aggregation. And we started looking at that back when I was on the liaison to the Conservation Advisory Council. And it is a program in which you can the town can join with other towns to purchase large purchases of renewable energy or a mix of renewable energy, whichever way we decide to put it forth. And you can also say that the town is going to have 100% renewable, but let's say we want 80% or 20% made locally, which would affect the price, but you have all these parameters in which to construct this program. This is the initial stage of this program and in the consideration of this program. We've had some public presentations over the years from the CAC to the Olive Town Board. Jeff Demansky from Joule Energy has come and presented to the town board and to the Conservation Advisory Council, I believe more than once. He probably knows this way too well now from seeing this so much over the years. But this program is part of I believe it's part of the Climate Smart program in New York State. And by the town joining this, the way it goes is you would be it would be defaulted to this as your energy provider on your utility bill. And in order to promote renewable energies and meet the goals of New York State for renewable energy. I believe the benchmark for New York State in 2030 is, I believe, 70% renewable. It's pretty ambitious. So what we'd like to do is consider this for the town. And the first thing we have to do on that is to pass a local law, which is why we're having this hearing at 6:30 instead of our 7 o'clock meeting time. And this law establishes the guidelines of the program. And I'm going to have to bore you more than I am now and read this thing for you. It's, you can't even see it. It's chapter 85. We're going to put in our code, and it's called Community Choice Aggregation. And it has a number of articles. Let me start off with it. Article 1 is the statutory authority and purpose. 85-1 is statutory authority. The town board of the town of Olive, County of Ulster, New York adopts the following regulations pursuant to section 10, subdivision 1, 2A12 of state's municipal home rule law and the authority bestowed upon towns in the Public Service Commission's ruling in case number 14-M0244 issued April 21, 2016 to establish a community choice aggregation program that will allow the town of Olive, with or without other local governments, to work together through a shared purchasing model to put out for bid the total amount of electricity being purchased by eligible consumers within the jurisdictional boundaries of the town of Olive, as well as to bid out for the development of distributed energy resources for the benefit of eligible customers. Exercise of this authority shall be consistent with the processes and procedures set forth in Appendix D of the PSC's aforesaid ruling, or with such other processes and procedures as the PSC may order or regulate, or the state legislature may determine. That's one part of it, and I got a lot more. 85-2 purpose. It is the policy of the state of New York to reduce costs and provide cost certainty, to promote economic development, to promote a deeper penetration of energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy resources such as hydroelectric, wind, and solar, to promote wider deployment of distributed energy resources, and to examine the retail energy markets and increase participation of and benefits for eligible customers in those markets. Among the models that may serve in these policies in New York is CCA, as defined in New York State Public Service Commission case number 14M 0224 of April 22, 2016, which allows local governments, including towns, villages, and cities, to determine the default supplier of electricity on behalf of eligible consumers. The purpose of CCA is to allow participating local governments to procure both energy supply service and distributed energy resources for eligible customers, who will retain the opportunity to opt out of such procurement by maintaining existing services from the distribution utility. We're gonna break this down later. Eligible consumers will have the opportunity to have more control, to lower their overall energy cost, to spur clean energy innovation and investment, to improve customer choice and value, and to protect the environment, thereby fulfilling the purposes of this chapter and other important purposes. The definitions, the following terms, this is under Article 2 terminology, definitions. The following terms shall have the meanings indicated: aggregated data, aggregated and anonymized information, including the number of consumers by service class, the aggregated peak demand in kilowatts for electricity by month for the past 12 months by service class to the extent possible, and the aggregated energy for electricity or volumetric consumption for gas by month for the past 12 months by service class. CCA administrator, the town board of the town of Olive, New York, or a third party selected by the town board, which shall be duly authorized to put out for bid the total amount of electricity being purchased by participating consumers and the distributed energy resources that will be incorporated into the CCA program. The CCA administrator shall be responsible for CCA program organization, public outreach, administration, procurement, and communications unless otherwise specified. CCA effective date. The date on which the CCA program becomes effective within the municipality following implementation of all actions required of the municipality and or CCA administrator to enroll participating customers in the CCA program, said actions to be set forth in more detail within a PSC order approving the community choice aggregation implementation plan described herein. Consumer specific data, consumer specific information, personal data and utility data for all consumers in the municipality eligible for opt-out treatment based on the terms of the PSC ruling in case number 14M-0224, or the CCA program design, including the customer records name, mailing address, telephone number, account number, and primary language, if available, and any consumer specific alternate billing name, address, and phone number. Data security agreement, an agreement between the distribution utility, the town of Olive, which obligates each party to satisfy collectively, A, all federal laws and local laws, regulations, or other government standards relating to the protection of information that identifies or can be used to identify an individual eligible consumer with respect to the CCA administrators or its representatives processing of confidential utility information. B, the distribution utilities internal requirements and procedures relating to the protection of information that identifies or can be used to identify individual eligible consumers with respect to the CCA administrators or its representatives processing of confidential utility information. And C, the PSC ruling in case number 14-M-0224 or the PSC's other orders, rules, regulations, and guidelines relating to confidential data. Default service, the supply service provided by the distribution utility to consumers who are not currently receiving service from an energy services company, ESCO. Eligible consumers within the town of Olive that receive default service and have not opted out will be enrolled in the CCA program as of the effective date of said program. Distributed energy resources, DER, local renewable energy products, shared renewables such as community solar, energy efficiency, demand response, energy management, energy storage, microgrid projects, and other innovative reforming the energy vision initiatives that optimize system benefits, target and address load pockets profiles within a CCA zone, and reduce cost of service for participating consumers. Distribution utility, Central Hudson Gas and Electric, or any successor thereto. Eligible consumers of electricity who receive default service from the distribution utility as of the effective date of a CCA program, or new consumers that subsequently become eligible to participate in the program at one or more locations within the geographic boundaries of the town of Olive, except those consumers who receive default service and have requested not to have their account information shared by the distribution utility. For the avoidance of doubt, all eligible consumers must reside or be otherwise located at one or more locations within geographic boundaries of the town of Olive. ESA, or Energy Services Agreement, an agreement entered into and between the municipality, the CCA administrator, and a supplier concerning procurement of electricity and or natural gas supply or electricity and or distribution utility bill credits generated by a DER on behalf of the participating customers upon terms and conditions that are mutually agreeable to the municipality and the CCA administrator and the supplier. Provided, however, that the CCA administrator is a third party, it shall sign each ESA solely for the purpose of furthering its administrative obligations under the CCA program and shall not have the financial liability under any ESA. ESCO, or Energy Service Company, an entity authorized to conduct business in the state of New York as an ESCO. New consumers of electricity to become eligible consumers after the effective date of the ESA. Participating consumers, excuse me, eligible consumers enrolled in the program, either because they are consumers who receive default service from the distribution utility as of the CCA effective date and who have not opted out, or who are new customers. Program organizer, the group or entity responsible for initiating or organizing the CCA program. The program organizer will typically secure buy-in from the local government and engage in preliminary outreach and education around CCA. The program organizer may be a local government, nonprofit organization, or other third party. The program organizer and the CCA administrator may be the same. PSC order. It's only a couple more pages of this. PSC CCA order. The PSC's authorizing framework for community choice aggregation opt-out program issued on April 21, 2016 in case number 14M-0224. Proceeding on motion of the commission to enable community choice aggregation programs, end of quote. Public Service Commission, or PSC, New York State Public Service Commission. That's the definitions. Article 3 is the general provisions. 85-4, establishment of community choice aggregation energy program. A community choice aggregation energy program is hereby authorized to be established by the town of Olive. The town may address and implement a CCA program to the full extent permitted by the PSC CCA order or any subsequent PSC orders, or approving the CCA program implementation plan as set forth more fully herein. The town may act as an aggregator or broker for the sale of electric supply to eligible consumers and may enter into contracts with one or more suppliers and or DER providers for energy supply and other services on behalf of eligible consumers. C, the town may enter into agreements and contracts with other municipalities, nonprofits, consultants, and other third parties to 1, develop and implement the CCA program, 2, act as CCA administrator and or contract out the role of CCA administrator to a third party. Such agreement will set forth the various rights and responsibilities of the parties, will govern the manner in which the CCA program is run. This agreement shall also authorize the CCA administrator to act as the town of Olive's agent for the purpose of procuring energy supply and other energy-related value-added services for the CCA program eligible customers, and or 3, develop offers of distributed energy resources and products and services to participating consumers, including opportunities to participate in local renewable energy products, shared solar energy efficiency, microgrid storage, demand response, energy management, and other innovative reforming the energy vision initiatives and objectives, and designed to optimize system benefits, target and address load pockets profile within the CCA zone, and reduce costs for CCA customers. D, The operation and ownership of the utility service shall remain with the distribution utility. The town's participation in a CCA program constitutes neither the purchase of a public utility system nor the furnishing of a utility service. The town shall not take over any part of the electric or gas transmission or distribution system and will not furnish any type of utility service, but will instead negotiate with suppliers and/or DER providers on behalf of participating consumers. E, participating consumers will be charged a CCA program subscription fee, which may include, but not necessarily be limited to, the ESCO supply charge, a DER subscription charge, if applicable, and the administration fee described in this chapter. This subscription fee will appear in the participating consumers' bills from the distribution utility. The town board, either acting on its own or through a CCA administrator, is authorized to prepare and submit a community choice aggregation implementation program to the New York State Public Service Commission for approval of a CCA program as outlined in the PSC CCA order. Such an implementation plan will include final details of the CCA program as outlined therein. 85-5, eligibility. All consumers within the town, including residential and non-residential, regardless of size, shall be eligible to participate in the CCA program, provided, however, that participation in DER projects may depend on DER project availability and may be restricted by distribution utility service class. B, all consumers who are members of electric SC1 residential service, SC2 general service, and gas SC1 residential rate, SC2 commercial and industrial rate may be enrolled on an opt-out basis, except for consumers that are already taking service from an ESCO that have placed a freeze or block on their account, or for whom inclusion in the CCA program will interfere with the choice the consumer has already made to take service pursuant to a special rate. These consumers may be enrolled in an opt-out basis. The definitive rules with respect to enrollment of eligible customers will be set forth in the CCA implementation program. C, new consumers shall be enrolled on an opt-out basis. 85-6, opt-out process. An opt-out letter printed on municipal letterhead shall be mailed to eligible consumers at least 30 days prior to customer enrollment. The opt-out letter shall include information on the CCA program and the contract signed with the selected ESCO and/or DER providers, including specific details on rates, fees, services, contract terms, cancellation fee, and methods for opting out of the CCA program. The letter shall explain that consumers that do not opt out will be enrolled in the CCA program under the contract terms, and that information on those consumers, including energy usage data and assistant program participation status, will be provided to the ESCO and/or to the DER providers. The opt-out letter shall also explain that the CCA administrator will be authorized to enroll participating consumers in DER projects and communicate such enrollment to the distribution utility under relevant PSC approved rules and tariffs so that participating consumers may receive eligible billing credits from the distribution utility. A, all consumers shall have the option to opt out of the CCA program at any time without departure penalty. B, termination fees shall not be charged to consumers that cancel their CCA services as a result of moving out of the premises served. 85.7, customer service. Participating consumers shall be provided customer service, including a toll-free telephone number during normal business hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, to resolve concerns, answer questions, and transact business with respect to the CCA program. 85.8, data protection requirements. The town may request aggregated data and customer-specific data from the distribution utility, provided, however, that the request for consumer-specific data is limited to only those eligible customers who do not opt out before the initial opt-out period closes. B, consumer-specific data shall be protected in a manner compliant with collectively, 1, all national, state, local laws, regulations, or other government standards relating to the protection of information that identifies or can be used to identify an individual and apply with respect to the town or its representatives' processing of confidential utility information. 2, the utility's internal requirements and procedures relating to the protection of information that identifies or can be used to identify an individual that apply with respect to the town's or its representatives' processing of confidential utility information. And 3, the PSC CCA order and PSC rules, regulations, and guidelines relating to confidential data. C, the town must enter into a data security agreement with the distribution utility for the purpose of protecting customer data. The agreement will ensure the CCA program or any selected ESCOs handle all confidential or sensitive customer data in keeping with those customer data protections already afforded by the utility prior to the enactment of this local law. This agreement will also ensure that CCA customer data, such as contract information, is not used for inappropriate purposes, such as solicitation of business unrelated to the CCA program, its goals and objectives. Article 4, administration. This is a short one. 85.9, administrative fee. The municipality may collect or cause to be collected funds from customer payments to pay for administrative costs associated with running the CCA program. 85.10, reporting. A, annual reports shall be filed with the town board by March 21 of each year and cover the previous calendar year. B, annual reports shall include at a minimum number of consumers served, number of consumers canceling during the year, number of complaints received, commodity prices paid, value added services provided during the year, e.g. Installation of DER or other clean energy services, and administrative costs collected. The first report shall also include the number of consumers who opted out in response to the initial opt-out letter or letters. C, if a CCA supply contract will expire less than 1 year following the filing of the annual report, the report must identify current plans for soliciting a new contract, negotiating an extension, or ending the CCA program. And that is the code for Chapter 85 that we're proposing in local law number 1/2021. The reason I read it is that this was supposed to be a public hearing, and I would like to make sure that we have it read as required by law to satisfy those people that were expecting to attend a public hearing. At least they had a reading of the law. So now I'm going to open it up to other people, and who would like to speak first? Jeff Demansky is here. Maybe he should give an overview of the program. If we want to unmute Jeff, if he's ready.
Hey guys, hope you don't hear background noise. Do I sound okay?
Yes.
Sound okay.
All right, very good. I heard you say background noise, and I was afraid it was me when I unmuted. So yeah, I'm Jeff Demansky, and in that law, if you remember hearing it, about the local program partner or local program component of the program, that's my organization, and working in partnership with Jewel Community, who is working on a number of CCAs in the region. And I've been very pleased to present a number of times to the town of Olive. And generally, I think, you've heard the details of the program. I'm happy to go into any responses, any questions people have. I can just say that we, just for experience, and it might be poignant for questions people might have, we've had an operating CCA program that started in the middle of 2019 in Central Hudson Territory. It originally included 6 communities, cities, towns, and villages. And pretty quickly after the start, in July 1st of 2019, 4 other communities joined, including the town and village of New Paltz, town of Red Hook, and town of Clinton in Dutchess County. And so we are nearing the end of the 2-year contract that was established by the request for proposals for that program, and are in the process now, in communications actively with all of those communities to repeat the process. It's not just an extension, but per the Public Service Commission order, it is a repeat of the process. A new RFP will be issued approximately in April for those communities. Of relevance too, particularly for people's curiosity about whether this model works, we did launch a even larger aggregation here in the Hudson Valley just in October of 2020, just a few months ago. And that was 6 communities representing, I think at the time of launch, about 40,000 households, all in Orange and Rockland territory. And despite the oddity of the utility rates with the pandemic's impact on the economy, the program launched. The requirement was met for the communities to move forward in the response, a couple of responses to the RFP, and one was selected, and the program officially launched January 1st of this year with the movement of the program rates onto the utility bill. There's lots of exciting developments, but this law that you're working on passing is, to use an analogy that my counterpart over at Jewel often uses, it's like a Swiss Army knife. It's a tool that can allow you to do a lot of things. And it's a tool you don't have to use, but you have to pass a law to have that tool available to you, including for the focus on the majority of what was discussed was the establishment of a buying club on behalf of the members of your community to get a very competitive rate for 100% renewables, with many consumer protection elements built into it. There are bad actors in the field, but the beauty of CCA programs is that they restrict the ability of the chosen companies to act within the confines of the requirements of the request for proposal, what is established through the contract. So it's wonderful in that way. Additionally, there's a lot of activity that folks have probably been exposed to, and we did talk about the confusion with community solar and how it relates to the electricity supply buying club of the program. And this serves in a number of ways to support awareness and comfort for the members of communities that launch a CCA, in that there is a resource, there's an education and outreach awareness building effort that helps people understand what's happening in the energy markets, which there is a lot of good things happening in the energy markets, but can be overwhelming. So this packages it in a nice, simple way. And even more so, a really fascinating development with the consolidation of billing by the utility companies, whereby they soon, Central Hudson will be in line to do this, will have to serve as a one-stop for all billing arrangements for all energy-related projects, including community solar. There is the ability to offer the electricity supply portion of the program as an opt-out, but we're also in exploration with a number of communities about offering community solar subscriptions to the members of your communities or of the communities on an opt-out basis as well. In a way, just like the buying club, there's no contract for the individual customers. So it's exciting to pass this enabling law. It does not commit the community to have to do anything, but you have to have it in order to continue the explorations. And so it's a very, in my opinion, but others share it, a very smart thing to do. And I'll leave it at that, and happy to answer any questions.
I'd also like to make it really clear that this is a very separate thing from what a lot of people are here to hear about, which is the hydropower proposal for the Catskills, which is a whole different thing than what we're talking about here. I just wanted to make that clear to people. Well, I'll just jump while I got the floor here. Let me just jump in really quickly. I did get several emails and phone calls today about this. And I did have two families, husband and wife, who were not in favor of this. They did not want government telling them what to do in terms of buying their electricity. And I made the case that you can opt out, and people weren't comfortable with the opt-out process. They felt more comfortable just having the default chosen by Central Hudson. One person said to me, I work for the government. I don't want them choosing electricity for me. My kind of thought, I didn't express this, but my thought was, well, I worked as an electrician for 20 years and I don't want Central Hudson choosing the electricity for me either. So, but it is, you do have the option to opt out on this and choose your own ESCO on this if you like. I just want to make that clear. I did also get a letter from Mitch Langbert, who was actually sent this to Central Hudson. They told him that this is something that the town is doing this, and Central Hudson told him that if it comes down to it, he can block him, so they can't change his account. But he said, I am a CH customer in the town of Olive, Ulster County. Some friends just emailed. The town is considering a community choice aggregation plan. They are concerned that they will be forced to join a local monopoly, which will have benefits in the short run, but may fall prey to environmentalist ideology, resulting in price increases in the longer run. I'm not an attorney, but I'm curious whether there is a potential for Sherman Antitrust Act complaint concerning the CTA concept. I suspect that this hasn't been litigated at this point. Any suggestions that you can offer for resisting the plan will be appreciated. I guess he thought Central Hudson was going to help him on this. I'm a college professor who has been a conservative activist in the area for years. So that was one response. Any other comments about the CCA program for the town of Olive?
And let me know if you want me to respond to anything.
Only if you feel, it's worth it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just for the record, while I give other people time to think, those two comments both circled around the idea of that this being a monopoly or a forced decision or government making a decision for the members of these communities. We love to make people aware of the current situation in that a government is already making the decision for them. Everyone is in a situation where the government's making a decision for them about their electricity supply. And that is since the late 1990s, since deregulation went into effect in New York, the state default is that if you don't take advantage of the private supply marketplace by contacting a company, any of the dozens of companies that are out there that offer individual contracts, that the utility company, as the supervisor said, makes that decision for you on a month-to-month basis. That is the default. That's the government saying that this is the decision being made. It gives proxy to the utility company as a pass-through to make the cost. What happens with this program, if the community launches a program, a third option is available, and it is not the only option. It does become the new default as established by the local law, but anybody can say no to it at any point with no penalty. And it is not a situation, it was established to counter the bad actors in the energy marketplace, where there have been manipulations of contracts that have been fixed for a period of time and suddenly there's an escalation, a variable rate applies, or there's a huge increase. This is structured to be transparent as a true public benefit with the consumer protections built in. It will be a fixed rate for the duration of the contract, and it can't be just continued, it can't change afterwards. It is fixed for a fixed period, and that's all there is to it for the supply rate.
Can you talk a little bit about the supply rate and the cost compared to the cost that people would pay without going into the program? A lot of the language talks about cost savings and things. Well,
CCA is an umbrella for a couple of different programs now. On the electricity supply, that is the idea that, and this is several components, forgive me for being long-winded, but there's an apples to apples and an apples to oranges situation. We generally go into this mostly focused on the apples to oranges comparison, where our apples, in this case, the product we're focused on for the program, if you proceed, is a 100% renewable rate. New York State sourced 100% renewables. The oranges in that comparison, for the most part, at the beginning of the program, and the only risk is that the utility rate, the non-renewable, predominantly non-renewable sourced rate from the utility company, which is not fixed, not allowed to be fixed by establishment of the state requirements. It varies month to month. It is possible, and we have seen this with the pandemic, that the utility rate can stay below our program rates. When we launched our program in 2019, our rates were lower than the average and lower than the utility rates at the time of the launch. And there were trends that showed, months that were lower and months that our program rates were lower. And we were trending in an excellent direction until the pandemic came along. So it is the one risk that this can happen. But in a pure apples to apples comparison about what a comparable product would be in the private marketplace, there is no doubt that this program is beneficial. To use an analogy, what this program establishes through municipal leadership in partnership with other municipalities that gives the power of numbers. This is like a Costco or BJ's Wholesale, where everyone's getting together and has leverage in the marketplace to get a very competitive price for 100% renewables. Far better than what an individual customer could do in the private marketplace that was established by deregulation. And so there is significant savings versus what customers could obtain in a private marketplace. That is the supply portion of the program. The state is also interested in this enabling and facilitating people to take advantage of things that seem too good to be true in the energy marketplace these days. In particular, these community projects, community solar or other forms of renewables. There are some hydro projects that do fit within that model. And those are great programs. I think people should look at them closely. There's lots of vendors out there for them. But through this program, we can vet the best contract in terms of protecting the members of these communities and enroll in large numbers people to automatically and have a guaranteed savings off of their total electric bill between 5 and 10% of what they otherwise would have paid. So you couple those two programs together, the buying club for supply with this opt-out community solar, if a community chooses to go that route as well, and you are doubling the environmental benefits, doubling the demand push for renewables into the New York State grid through two separate, parallel, mix or match, either or approach financial transactions to bring benefits statewide, but also to individual customers as well.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? We are going to have another public meeting, an official public hearing on this law number 1, 2021 on March 24th. You want to put that down, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. on the same link that you're on now. And then we will hear from the public some more and decide whether we want to vote on this to pass. Any other comments? Dawn.
I got to unmute her.
Hang on, Dawn.
I'll find her. There she is.
Oh, you want me to make a motion? I know what you want me to do. For the town board, I make a motion that we have a public hearing on local law number 1, 2021 on March 24th at 6:30 p.m. on our Zoom link. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your hands and let me see you guys.
Yes.
So carried. Any opposed? Oh, okay. All right, so we got that done. Anything else on CCA? Anyone out there want this is the last chance? Who's that, Dan?
Dan, yeah.
Unmute him there.
I'm trying to find him. There we go.
You're on, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Jeff and Jim and everyone. So I'm the co-chair of the Olive Conservation Advisory Council. And just to summarize the benefits as we see that for this program, that first and foremost, this is a way to move not just our town, but the whole country toward cleaner, more sustainable, more renewable energy. It'll, the more towns that do this, the cleaner the air, the less CO2 is in the air, and the greater the effect, the lesser the effect on climate change. It's also, as Jeff said several times, a buying club that has the potential to lower prices because we're buying with other people. And then third, there is choice. I mean, right now, Central Hudson makes all the choices for us. Here, we're hiring essentially professionals, Jeff's company and the associated company Joule, to do market research every day to look for the best deals, both on price and renewableness, if that's a word. And in thinking about that, then what this is doing is it's actually encouraging the development of sustainable energy. That it'll encourage entrepreneurs to initiate community solar programs or even bigger solar arrays. It'll incentivize hydro providers and wind providers. So long term, it will increase the availability of sustainable energy, and it'll also help Olive's reputation as a green and environmental community. And just one of those comments, Jim, I couldn't help being annoyed at somebody attempting to demonize the environmental movement. I don't understand the rationale of that other than somebody that's been reading some things on conservative websites, that I think it's, for these purposes, that it's hard to imagine any move toward environmentalism is not a good thing. So I'm done.
Well, that's why we have public hearings, so everyone can voice their opinions on this. Any other comments? Because I know, I think that's it for CCA for now. We're going to close up the CCA portion of this. Make a motion to close this hearing or information. It's a public information meeting. It's not an official meeting. So I'm just going to close it and we can go into our regular town board meeting. Dawn, you good with that? She says good. Kind of keeps the records there. Okay, it is, what is it? Monday, March, 8th? And we are the Yollstown Board having our workshop meeting. And we don't usually, you want to do a roll call, just so you know who's here, Dawn? Or do you have that? Can you unmute Dawn? I can't hear her. Dave, you on it?
I don't think you need to do a roll call because it's only a workshop and
Okay.
Vicky was the only one I was missing. She came in about 6:59. That's what I saw, unless I got that wrong, Vicky. Was that about right? Okay,
Good to me.
we're good.
Okay, so we're going to go into our regular board meeting, and I know that there are some people here for different things. Aaron, you're going to have to wait. I've got a lot of people here on one thing. So we're going to go right into the Ashokan Pump Storage Project. I would imagine that's what most of the crowd is here to hear. On January 29th, a company by the name of Premium Energy Holdings Limited Liability Corporation based in Walnut, California, filed an application before the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for project number 15056. And it is an application for a preliminary permit for the Ashokan Pump Storage Project. Is Jeff Demansky? I meant to say thank you, Jeff. I forgot it. Anyway, this is a project that's gotten a lot of attention. It was kind of sprung on us and blindsided us. I have put a brief description of it on our town website, and on the town website there is information on how to comment on it. I will tell you that it is a project of enormous scale and enormous consequences if it ever goes through. And I just lost my Zoom feed. Where the heck are you guys?
We're still here.
We're still here.
I don't know if you
We
can
still
see
see
me.
you.
I can't see you. Oh, shoot. Bear with me here. I lost you. I'm going to let someone else take it over till I get you guys. Shoot.
Can you hear us, Jim?
I can hear you, so I'm going to keep going. I can't
Yeah,
see.
that's fine.
Because we can see you.
Oh, that's great. I'd rather be seen but not heard, but let me see if I can get on again. Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know where you went. Anyway, that's where we're at in terms of this project. This project was proposed. I'd like to open it up a little, but I can't see. Someone else is going to have to take control until I can get back on here. Shoot. I hate these things. I'm going to have to re-sign on the meeting. So,
Hey, David, it looked like Matt wants to say something.
all right, Mac, do you
Okay.
want to talk for a little bit?
Yeah, I'm
me?
getting there.
I'm sorry. Apologize.
Can't hear you, Matt. David, Matt's coming.
I let him unmute.
See you and hear you just fine. Just keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
I can't see anything.
You don't have to. We see you. Go
I
ahead.
have to see who's raising their hand and things. Does somebody else want to talk about this for a while I get myself back on here, please?
Okay. I'll try. Jim's much more involved in this than I am. As most of you know, I think we got this sprung on us. We weren't even informed officially by FERC. They informed the town of Ulster. I don't think DEP was informed directly. My first reaction when I saw it, I said, oh, this is ridiculous. It's never going to happen. But as we learn more about it, this company is not particularly a big company, but they're trying to get their foot in the door so that if this project was to ever happen, they would have something to do with it. So the good thing is municipalities, towns, and individuals have the right to comment. Exactly what that comment should be in order to, let's say, get FERC to deny this permit, I'm not clear on. I think Jim has a better understanding of that than I do. But it would be interesting to hear what, I know some of you in at least one of the proposed dams live downstream of that dam, so I know it's very concerning to you. But if anybody has any comments or questions about it, try to raise your hand, and maybe I don't have control. I think David would have to give you control. Are you back on, Jim?
I can still hear you. I just cannot find my Zoom picture here. I can tell you that the process is you have a 60-day window process of which to comment. And the town of Olive, we were, you can also be applied to be an intervener. And an intervener requires you to write a letter to the FERC application portal and make your claim, basically. And we claimed as a town to become an intervener. Trout Unlimited was right before us claiming to be an intervener. Since then, the town of Woodstock and New York City DEP today decided to be interveners. So there are several different interveners. People can also go on and register and then file their own comments in there. And they can try to, they can make comments. But I suggest that what people do is read the comments that are there right now. Some people just say, hey, you know, I'm against this. I think it's bad for the environment. I think we live in a great place. This is something we shouldn't have in our neighborhood. And other people are more involved in a specific thing. There was a great one that was put on there today talking about the water coming in and out of the upper basin of the Ashokan Reservoir and how that will disturb the fish populations, which then could disturb the eagles nesting there. Those are the kind of interesting angles, I think, that might get more attention and we might be able to hit on something. But the basic thing for a preliminary application that people should know is that hold on, I'm trying to get on the screen again. Is that FERC will not deny the application based on comments of this is bad for the environment. I don't think this is good. You know, the dam's going to cause environmental damage. I'm worried about my wells. Those are good things to say, but FERC will not deny a preliminary permit for that because a preliminary permit is a permit to do a feasibility study. And in this case, they asked for 2 years to do the feasibility study. And the feasibility study will answer all those questions. What really has more merit is issues of legal walls they might hit. So DEP is doing a great job. You know, they're going to come in. They'll probably have some very good arguments to make legally. I did look into New York State Forever Wild the other day, And I thought that might be a protection legally, but there is a thing called federal eminent domain that they can take forever wild New York State lands. Now, whether they want to go through all that and fight New York City and fight New York State, if New York State puts up a fight, which I believe I'm hearing they're going to respond, is yet to be determined. But I do know I do have contact with some people in the Sierra Nevadas through the Sierra Club who have fought this particular company on hydro plants. They've been successful and not successful in the preliminary permit stage. And the preliminary permit stage, like I said, an intervener will get a seat at the table if it moves further. And we also have a greater heft in what we say because we represent a greater interest in a sense, I'm thinking. And the activist at the Sierra Club told me, the question I had is it worth people to respond to this? Even if it's just, I'm against this, this is not going to happen in my neighborhood, that might not persuade FERC from making a decision to move forward on this, but it may very well dissuade Premium Energy, realizing they have a lot of opposition. So it's a twofold thing. It's the entities that have something that they can legally challenge us on to appeal to FERC, but there's also as many people as we get to respond that would appeal to Premium and say, I don't want to get involved in New York State here.
Jim, let me make a comment too.
Hey, I got back. I'm back. Okay, this is great.
Oh, good.
Finally, I found it.
Anybody out there, if you would, please read this company's application. From my point of view, it's clear that they've never been in the county of Ulster nor the Catskills. They're probably doing this all from, I'll call it Google Maps or something. So to me, their application has a lot of weak points in it. And I think if any of you have, I'll say, a technical background and can respond to their application directly, I think that would, pointing out the weaknesses of their whole application, that would be great also.
I mean, one of the, the town is going to, what I'm doing is analyzing the application, and I'm combing through it for inaccuracies. And what I plan to do is create a narrative of which one part will be just on the flaws of the application. The application has numerous flaws in it, and there is FERC will take into consideration a very deeply flawed application that would show a lack of depth, understanding, and ability to even proceed based on the application. So that's what I'm looking at the town focusing on and approaching. The town, I'm at this point, my thoughts, and I've talked a little bit with the town board about this, is trying to stay rather measured in our response. So in that, I mean, we're looking at it from a very, very central point of view without making any rash judgments on it. And that is so that if they do get a preliminary permit and they do start the process, that the town will be the intervener. And by nature of being an intervener, you have to even say in your thing that you're not going to disrupt the meeting, that you're not there to advocate, you're there to put a position down. It's very measured. So I'm tending to be a little more conservative than if I weren't representing the town as much. But that doesn't mean by any way to dissuade people from getting on that website and writing it. I don't want them to look back at me in a year from now after, if this moves forward and say, well, your opinion doesn't matter much because you were prejudiced the first day we put the application in. I don't want them to look at the town and think that. I want to be able to maintain our voice in this and have a measured voice in opposing this.
I mean, if you look at the application, I know everybody in the town is concerned about I'll call it the Wittenberg Dam that they proposed, but they also proposed two other options. So they're proposing three options for having the upper reservoir. One is in Shandaken, but the other one is just across the border from Shandaken into Greene County. So think about, I'll call it the ridiculousness of that option of having the upper reservoir that far away and drilling all the way to the Shokan for it.
The other issue on this, and I call it the not as sexy issue, is on the other side of it. When the electricity is generated or when the electricity is coming in the opposite direction and needs to pump the water up to this reservoir. The prediction is, I believe it's somewhere near 1,000 megawatts of power to pump the water up to an uphill reservoir. So just to give you an idea of the scale and scope of this project, the net output of Indian Point is 1,035 megawatts roughly. So we're looking at a huge amount of power to be able to pump this thing up on off hours. And my question, aside from all of the environmental stuff that we're looking at the reservoirs and the tunnels and the infrastructure, is what happens down when those transmission lines go through our town in whatever fashion they design it as, to go to a substation over near Kingston. And does that mean that substation needs to be upgraded to accommodate that kind of load, electrical load at that kind of wattage? And how much infrastructure build out does this really mean in terms of the entire region? And who bears those costs? Does it go to Central Hudson and then that gets tagged on to the consumer? And suddenly our electric rates might go up because of this project, just to be able to, to afford that pumping power that they need. That's another issue that I think is important from the county perspective and the more regional perspective. We are trying to get the information on the town website. We are giving, I gave 2 interviews, one to the Freeman, one to the HV1, should come out this week, the end of this week. We are planning on, I'd like to propose to the board that we do a Zoom meeting on March 18th for the town and promote that. I think Wendy and Michelle, who are on here, are going to help us with that and help us get the word out so that we can get a meeting like this and present the information that we have and continue to push strategies that will make the applicant realize that they're going to face a lot of opposition here. That's really important. We're looking at March 18th at 6:30 on a Zoom. And that will be on the town website and calendar once we get that settled. Actually, let me make that motion now that we have an informational meeting on the Ashokan pump storage project on March 18th at 6:30. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Okay, we're going to have that meeting and we will publicize that and put it on the calendar. And I think Wendy and Michelle are going to help us promote it.
Yeah, I believe Wendy wanted to say something, correct? Is it okay if I unmute Wendy to
Oh,
speak?
yeah. Anybody can chime in now.
Yeah, okay.
Am I up now?
Yeah,
Anybody with questions, just raise your
Okay.
hand. Or
So
suggest.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak against the Premium Energy proposal to build a reservoir dam, an underground hydroelectric plant in West Shokan, and the related high voltage power lines that would run throughout the town of Olive. Tonight, I'd like to address some of the major unbiased deficiencies with the Premium Energy and its proposal. Their work, both in the initial application in November and the revised application they submitted in January, is clearly defective. It's impossible to tell whether they are simply incompetent or have the worst of intentions for our community, or both. Tonight, I will mention only a few of the errors they have already made. The initial application was rejected by FERC, the federal agency overseeing this project, because Premium Energy did not send notification to the affected towns like ours.
I will, let me jump in there real quick. I got it yesterday. And it wasn't there, but I will say it was not their issue. It was dated. It came on my desk on Friday afternoon. I wasn't in the office. I got it yesterday when I was at the office, and it was dated February 11. Stamp. So
That's
will
the
take that.
updated application references Shokan City and
Right.
does not even give something as simple as our town's proper name anywhere in the paperwork.
Right.
And even though the power plant would be under the Ashokan Reservoir and possibly affect the water supply to New York City, Premium Energy did not even notify the DEC initially of its intent. The application states that the project would be built on New York State land. The latitude and longitude point they give for the upper reservoir is in fact within the state wilderness, which is forever wild and protected by Article 14 of the New York State Constitution. However, Premium Energy does not say anything about the need to get permission to build in the forest preserve. This permission would require approval by the New York State Legislature and a statewide vote to transfer the lands from public to private use. In reality, however, using the other information in the application, it is evident that the upper reservoir in Olive would actually be built almost entirely on private parcels. This would force many property owners to sell at artificially low prices or suffer through eminent domain. Either way, many people flooded by the reservoir and downstream from the dam would be forced to leave their homes against their will. According to FERC, anyone who has such property interest is required to be notified of a proposal like this by certified mail. This never happened. In my opinion, coupled with their failure to notify the town of Olive or the DEC initially, it is clear that Premium Energy is trying to prevent interested parties, whether private or governmental, from responding in a timely way. Although the application makes mention of tunnels connecting the upper reservoir to the power plant, you have to look pretty hard to realize that they are talking about 42 to 50-foot wide underground tunnels and their supporting structures. These would run under Watson Hollow Road, the Bushkill Stream, South Mountain, 28A, and High Point Mountain Road, among others. Again, the proposal fails to include the fact that these tunnels are also running under private property, disrupting wells, upsetting traffic, destroying our roads, and ruining the quality of life for the years that construction would take place. Premium Energy never addresses the need for roughly 150,000 trucks of concrete just for the dam, permanent roads around the new reservoir, parking and maintenance facilities, the building of supply roads, and the possibility of a concrete manufacturing plant through currently untouched forest. Premium Energy, the company behind this proposal, is a California company. It is clear that they came up with this idea without ever having set foot in our region. This project is not about producing green energy, despite the hype. It is about making a profit for the utility companies by using low-cost energy to pump water up and selling high-cost energy at times of peak demand. The underground power plant would actually use more energy than it produces. I'm in favor of green energy, but this particular type of pumped storage hydroelectric power is one of the least green, non-fossil fuel ways of generating energy, especially compared with solar and wind. In conclusion, I'm asking the Town of Olive Board to stand strongly in opposition to this project from the outset. Tonight's guest, Jeff Demensky, spoke in a different context about the bad actors in the energy marketplace. It seems to me that Premium Energy falls into this group. While this is simply a proposal to conduct a study rather than approval of the project itself, it can only be in our collective best interest to oppose the project now. Once Premium Energy has spent $5 million to study the opportunity, they will be even more invested in bringing this poorly conceived disaster directly to Olive. There is nothing here that merits further study. Please act forcefully now to stop it before it starts. Thank you for considering this, and please know that I'm available to help the town fight this project in any way possible.
Wendy, Drew, I got a quick question. Are you planning on submitting at least a version of what you just read to FERC?
Oh, absolutely, to
Okay, so-
FERC and more.
When
And
you
can you
said
send
D-
that to the
you
town
said
board,
DEC
But I have to, FERC requires 6,000 characters or less, so I have to do it. And Steve obviously will, who's here, will do more,
Okay,
he's
so-
entitled to his and.
I got a question for you. When you said DEC, did you mean DEP or did you mean DEC?
Good.
But, okay, so I meant DEP, yes,
Okay, so when you put that in there for them,
gotta fix
I
it,
would
yep,
spell out what exactly that is. New York City
okay,
Department of
New York
Environmental
City,
Protection.
good, definitely will do.
the link to make comments is on the town website.
Good.
There's an article that gives an overview of this, and it is on the town website.
I
And I
think,
strongly suggest you look at other comments to give yourself an idea of what is out there and how you want to comment, because I think
Right.
there's a wide variety of ways to comment.
that-
Absolutely, and I want to add to it, not just repeat it.
and I think
Yeah, I'd like to
what
I'd like to say
what
one.
Wendy said was, is attacking their application and its inaccuracies. I think that's a good way to go.
Okay. Matt wants to speak?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think Wendy, that's a great piece, and I'm encouraging you to post that on the FERC website or wherever it is that we're supposed to post. I think as many people that can make a comment on any level, environmental, the building of roads to create the reservoir, the fact that you're going to have to do years and years of construction to create this mess, the more stuff we can put up there so that this company understands that they're going to have to fight and it'll cost them a lot of money, I think the better for all of us.
Right.
As part of the Conservation Advisory Council, and there's a few of us here on this meeting, we are also preparing a letter to go out to FERC telling them our position, and we're basing it mostly on our natural resources inventory that we have just put together, which is a
Excellent.
very helpful tool.
I'd like to make a little clarification on that. The request that I made for the OCAC to compile that will go with my report to them. It'll be a package, so don't send it individually. We'll send it together. And it won't be a letter, it'll be a report addressing it. Okay?
Yes, that's not a problem. But
Okay.
I'm encouraging as many people to put their notices and their comments online as possible. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
I also have Brian Burns, our highway superintendent, is putting together a survey of Moon Hall Road and Hillside Road and looking at all the dynamics of the road to address the conditions of the road and how difficult it would be to access that site. That'll be part of our report to them.
I think it's also important to negate the other two options, because we could wind up negating the option up Moonhaw, but they wind up going with one of the others, but it would still impact us greatly, because no matter which reservoir they choose, the power plant is in Olive.
Right, right. We have a couple of hands up. Mary Ann had her hand up first, I
Yeah, you
believe.
should be able to unmute yourself right now. I'm just maintaining control.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Wendy, for that. I just had a question regarding the DEC. Are they gonna come out with, when you mentioned the fact that this is forever wild land, will the New York State DEC come out as an intervener or make a statement? Have you heard from them at all, Jim?
DEP is filed as intervener. Their legal department is looking at it, and they do plan to respond.
Not DEP, DEC, the New York State DEC.
DEC, I'm going to be speaking to Bill Rudge later this week. I've only heard through the grapevine, yes, but I have not heard anything definitive until we do. I wouldn't bet on anything from the people who have higher political legs than we do. I don't know what's going to influence this decision, and I think we have to not rely on those institutions. We can hope that they reply in a way that we agree with. But there have been past incidents with DEP where they haven't replied to things like this for political
My
reasons.
concerns is if for some reason Albany decides that this is a green good idea, DEC and DEP could stand down, be silent on it.
But I can't imagine that the DEC would, when you have all of this wild forest, that they're going to support a proposition like this.
I would agree with you, but I wouldn't bet on it. You have a mayor and you have a governor who are at each other's throats right now.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the New York City. I'm talking about the State Department of Environmental Conservation.
I understand that. I
Separate.
understand that. And you
And
have
I'm
a
talking
mayor and you
about-
have a governor who had at each other's throat is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but I think the DEC is a separate, and that's more the governor than.
I can tell you this. I can tell you that New York State Forever Wildland was taken from New York State for a mining company at Jay Mountain by New York State through the process of eminent domain and through the process of the state legislature and a public referendum. And they did take, through the Cuomo administration, take state land and give it to a mining company. So when you ask us that question, I would certainly agree with you. I hope that, but I wouldn't adamantly say that we're going to put our eggs in that basket.
No, I don't mean to put our eggs in it, but I think, they should be commenting.
They
So,
should-
could I,
You know about it.
can I say two things?
Yes,
One, Wendy, I thought your statement was great, and I'd ask you to send it to the board so we can see it. And also, I would think the DEP would be really concerned about the turbidity issue at in the reservoir.
Absolutely.
That is the issue that has come up time and time with conversations with them that I've had. I'm pretty sure they're going to respond pretty strongly to this. But again, I am not putting our eggs in any basket. Yes, let's hope that happens. Any other comments? Michelle, do you want to say anything down there? You got to unmute yourself. I know you've got stuff to say.
Yeah.
If you don't know Michelle, find
Well,
out.
I just feel like a lot of it has been said. Hi, thank you, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak, share my concerns. And a lot of the same concerns I have been iterated already. And I do agree with, I think it was Drew, and a lot of people have already said that this Premium Energy has put out lots of proposals regarding these types of projects with the whole one of them might stick. And reviewing the proposal, though, there is a huge major consensus, as well as Wendy has pointed out, that the preparation planning is simply like a copy and paste job. And I think Drew said, it's again, their point is they put it out there, kind of mark their place in the, in the track, shall we say. And who cares if the application has all these deficits? Because what that allows them to do is just keep writing all these amendments, and then it just prolongs the whole process. And also, too, by doing this, they also put out all the other competitors. So this is, on the surface we look at, this is so absurd. I think somebody said, I agree. However, and I think Jim is saying, this is such a huge project to oppose because there's so many different angles we need to go. And I don't think putting our eggs in one basket, it's like we have to fill all the baskets to make sure to block this. So I think that's really, really important. And I could just think a plethora of reasons why this needs to be posed, especially, yes, I'm taking that other, like Jim mentioned, there's two folds. One is we need to get that legal bar piece. We need to look at the application. We need to really look at it from a legal perspective. I get that. And that takes a certain set of eyes. Then it's that other layer, maybe like where I was going to speak tonight was more of that emotional side of, this is my town of Olive, didn't this happen some 100 years ago? And here we are, is history repeating itself? Will our land be cleared of human habitation in West Shokan? So like we have that emotional side too. And I think those pieces still need to go into that comment section. I would love nothing more than to fill that page up with comments, but also be very active and articulate with our research unbiased scientific findings so we can poke holes. I mean, we have this, how is this going to impact this byway? I mean, that's huge. Our town survives on tourism with hikers and hunters and fishermen and fisherwomen. That's our main economy. What is this going to do to us? I mean, Ulster County Tourism website says we're alive. Well, if this project comes through, I don't know what's going to be alive in Ulster, in our town. So I am just imploring that we can't let this history repeat itself. We need to put out all the stoppers. And we have all lived with this COVID pandemic for the past year, and with so much uncertainty, stress, and loss, we as a community can't continue living with this uncertainty for 2 years or 10 years, especially to what a lot of us call home. So I want nothing more than for the town of Olive to be known for organizing and stopping such a hideous proposal. The mindset we need is that we're going to take community and we're going to stop this. So there's so much more I could say. I'm doing lots of research. I don't want to repeat too much more because I know a lot of you are saying the same things. I don't want to be part of that, but we can't just say this is so unreal. And that's when we get our guard down, and this is when it can happen. We can't allow it to go to the next step. We just can't. So we need to start knocking and on our neighbor's door and be part grassroots as well. That's just my thought, and I look forward to serving in any capacity.
I would agree with Michelle completely, and I can tell you that my experience the first week that I got this, when I reached out to other organizations, they were like, their knee-jerk reaction was, oh, DEP won't let that happen. And that's why I fight that response to, those organizations, because we have to stand on our own on this. And yes, it's very likely, I don't want to be a fear monger either. It's very likely, DEP will respond strongly to this, but we do have to do our due diligence. We have to follow through on this. We have to show a response, a big response from the public. And so I've been reaching out to all of the environmental groups, all of the different groups that have a stake in this, all the stakeholders I can find, and trying to encourage them to either write a comment or become an intervener in this project.
Right. I'd like to build on something Michelle said too, that the one thing that the company in California doesn't know is they've kind of stirred up the emotions of 110 years ago of the same exact kind of thing happening to this town. And I agreed, I'm not a long-term person in the town, but I know there's people that are, that I'm sure they start feeling like, oh, it's happening all over again. And that's one of the reasons we got to push back on it hard.
My response to this has been, people say, well, I don't want to be a NIMBY. And I said, well, we're already NIMBYs. We already have it in our backyard. We have the Ashokian Reservoir in our backyard, a major utility that supplies water for New York City. This is a NIMFY. This is not in my front yard as well as my backyard. It's both, and that does put a different emphasis on it.
Right.
Susan has her hand
Larry
up.
Brown has a hand up, or Susan, who's next?
Susan was first.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
I just, on this thought of making sure we've turned every stone and who can support us, and your comment, Jim, to Marianne about the DEC, how much, and I don't know how the DEC works with New York State and our elected officials, both Cahill and Senator Oberacker, and whether they could provide us any support, because we certainly can make them aware if we think that's a connection to affect things at the state level.
They definitely should be contacted, and that's another group of people that we'll probably discuss. I'm having a meeting with Wendy and Michelle and a couple other people on Friday, and we'll probably discuss how to target those organizations and who we want to target, those political entities. Yes, all of those should be contacted. All of those should be made aware. I cannot believe they're not aware of this. It's been on the front page of the Freeman 3 times now. If they don't know that's happening in their district, then they don't deserve to be in the office.
There's a difference between not being aware and being very aware of how their constituents feel about it and what influence they can it'd be good for us to understand what
Yeah.
influence they can have over the decisions by the DEC, right? I don't know how the decision was made that the reservoir got placed here 100 years ago and who was involved, but if they have any weight, we want to make sure we have their ear. Let's put it that way.
I'd like to make one other comment on, I'm on the county planning board, and we discussed this a little bit because a few people had questions at our meeting earlier this week. And I asked Dennis Doyle a question that disturbs me. I said, if this project was to ever go forward, would we, the town, have any jurisdiction, any say? And he said, I don't remember exactly how he said it, but because the federal government's involved, we would basically be shut out of having any real say in how this whole project would move forward. So from that point of view, to me, it makes it much more important to shut this preliminary permit down before it's even becoming a project. So that's my fear, is if it would just get shoved down our throat if it actually happened.
All right, Larry Brown, unmute yourself there, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to offer my support to everybody who spoke, but I also wanted to make a couple of recommendations. There are probably people in the town of Olive who are not yet fully aware of what's actually taking place. And I'm wondering if the town board could compose a letter that went into every mailbox and everyone in the town of Olive, informing them and where they can find more information on the town website and how they can respond, and to unify that effort by working very collaboratively with the town of Shandaken, who is in the same situation we're in. And the more we can unify and join forces, the stronger our voice will be.
That's a good thing. I was going to mention the letter that you sent me an email about that, and that was on my list here of things to do. So, we will send a letter out. I guess let me make a motion on that, okay, for the town board, that we will send a public notice, either a postcard or something, to make people aware of this. It's a lot to put in a letter. It's better to put to the link on the on our website, which has the information. I'd like to make a motion that we send it. We do a mailing at this at some point. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nobody. Okay, got that done? All right. Any more comments about this? We've got a lot more to go on here. And we will be talking about this again. Our next meeting on this is March 18th at 6:30. I think there's a zoning committee meeting. You might have to switch that around, or you guys won't be at the pump storage meeting, whatever.
Jim, what I'll probably do is just put our meeting off. I think this is much more important to deal with on the immediate.
Okay. Anything else? No other comments? Okay. We're going to move on our agenda there. Thank you.
Are we done yet?
No, we're just starting.
Drew, did you not see the agenda?
I hope we have, you have your agenda.
We've only gotten through 2 items.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to jump down to Aaron Smith is here. And I'm trying to get people so they don't have to stay for the rest of this because it's a lot. Aaron is been in discussion with us about an event that an annual car event he has in Olive Bridge, and wanted to, last year he had to cancel the event because of COVID. And now things are starting to open up a little bit, and group gatherings are starting to get a little bit more opened up. And we wanted to hear, we wanted to have a discussion on what we can do. And I know he has a timeliness to this because his event usually happens in May. So Aaron, why don't you unmute yourself, and maybe you can tell us what you've found so far. I know you sent us something. I shared it with the town board about the new opening up on events.
Yeah, I have I've done some research, not a whole lot because I don't know, I honestly don't know what to do. I'm sure we're all in the same situation here, but uh it looks like as of today, what a man can do or a woman can do to have an event is if they have the COVID test negative of the attendees coming, they can have up to 500 people. I don't know if that's going to change by May. I doubt it, just because I don't think May is less than 50 some odd days away. So I guess that's what I'm asking for, is if I can do that. Yeah.
How would you control, how would you know or control the testing of your attendees?
So I actually had a COVID test today for a procedure I have later in the week. And what they tell me there at Health Quest in Kingston at the old Hudson Valley Mall was that each patient gets a portal that they can access all the information of the test through. And on that portal, they say that you can print your confirmation of your test. So what that means for patient privacy and things like that, I don't know. The whole thing seems a little off, but according to a couple lawyers I spoke to, if you voluntarily give up your private health information, that's legal. So according to her, the lawyer I spoke with, that, if that's, if you're volunteering that information to, in exchange, attend an event, then that's okay.
I was thinking more about on the day, let's say the day of the event, how do you actually control who's coming in and out and whether they've been tested or not? How do you perceive that happening?
So they're going to have, well, see, I have the same questions, and it's why it's an interesting thing that the governor's office released this, but without guidelines on how you go about doing it, obviously. So I had the same questions. Well, it's either print the printouts, show me who you are with your ID and that you've passed the test with flying colors or not.
There have been other places in the world, like in Japan, I saw a place that was doing indoor events, and they required everyone to be tested to be able to attend an event. It seems like that's the kind of phase that we're moving in for events.
Yeah, it's interim. I believe that'll end probably, by the end of the summer. But in the meantime, that's what we're doing. And also, not to confuse everyone, but there was also CDC released some information today as well, just today, a few hours ago, that vaccinated folks can now freely attend events without masks or anything. But again, still know how did they keep track of that? Yeah, it just came out today. You guys can look it up. I found it on a video release on NBC News, but I didn't find a link to share with you yet.
I thought, what I thought I saw on that, Aaron, was, okay, people that are fully vaccinated can congregate together in small groups, but everybody's got to be fully vaccinated.
Right, it could be that.
No, actually, they've said that grandparents who've been fully vaccinated could go visit their grandchildren who haven't been vaccinated yet.
That was part of it too, yes.
Yeah.
Eric, could you remind me how many people you usually get at these?
We've been allowed to have 1,000 by town law, but we've probably only ever gotten 850, I think, as a total.
So would you be able to keep it down to 500 if that were the limit?
If I have to, I will.
I was also, I think last year when this was first coming up, we talked about trying to do it later in the summer, perhaps, to give it a little more time for things to get better. And then they got worse last year. So obviously it didn't happen. But
well, we did postpone it to September, which in my mind is the only feasible way to handle that because it's just too hot in the field. You'll have dehydration issues. It'll be a health concern when it's that hot. With literally lack of any real structures or shade to get under besides easy ups. So we decided that was bad. It has to be in the cooler times.
Right.
I think it's also interesting to point out that Aaron's event has a couple of different aspects to it that relate to this. One is it's a car show, so people, stay at their car and people walk around and look at cars. So that's a pretty easy venue to keep social distancing. And there are other venues that are allowed that are similar to that. The other thing is camping. It is a one night overnight, right? Or is it
Yes,
two?
Jim.
One night overnight.
Well, we added Friday. I say yes, but we did add Friday in 2019 for the first time. But it's limited. It's for the diehards that come from, a whole day's drive away, or people like that. 75% of who stays just comes that day, Saturday.
So there's the camping element of it, which is another thing that is allowed. But when you look at campgrounds, it's individual groups throughout the campground that don't congregate together. So camping in itself is okay. The problem that you have with your group, with your event, is when you have those mass gatherings of people, when you have the stage going or around a fire or something like that. That's where it gets a little bit questionable. And it is all outdoors, so that's a good aspect of it. And our purview here is not necessarily to be the health department of Ulster County. We are looking at giving Aaron a permit that's required for gatherings of over 300 people. That's what we're really looking at. And we're in the past, when we were looking at it last year and we were talking about September and no one knew what was going to happen, I believe we granted you that if you could do it under the guidelines that were required at the time of the event. And maybe,
right,
that's what we want to look at now, is if that's where really our jurisdiction lies. Any other town board members want to chime in on that?
It seems logical to me that as long as Aaron is abiding by the current guidelines from, I'll say, the governor's office, the Ulster County Health Department, and CDC, I don't see a problem with it. I'm sure we're going to get complaints about it going on. I'm sure people are going to call in and say, hey, there's a big gathering going on. But
it's always been good about talking to your neighbors. Have you talked to your neighbors this time around about their thoughts? I know you've been good about dealing with them in the past.
The honest truth is I have not spoken to the neighbors as of yet, because I wasn't sure if it was even possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that will happen, as it does every other year. Yes.
So like with anything with COVID these days, the rules are changing day by day. So month and a half from now, the world could be completely different than it is now. So I kind of lead towards what Jim was saying, that, we give you the permit based on the protocols that are in place now. And by the time your show does come, maybe those protocols will be even more relaxed and you won't have any issues at all.
That sounds fair.
And I will say this, that this event has always been something that we're always a little bit hesitant about, as you know, and we always kind of look at it very carefully. How this event comes out is going to determine what we decide next year. We can only look back and say, well, what's your track record here, Aaron? And this is a tough one. This is a really tough one to do. And if you think you can pull it off, great. But if it turns into a mess, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Jim, I realize that. And I've treated the event that way every year.
Yes.
And I tell the people who come that that's how I treat the event, and that it's in their hands. If they screw it up, it's simple. There just won't be one next year. And they like it a lot more than I do. It's a lot of work for me.
But the thing that's interesting is that we're going to hear from it. We're going to get people that say there's a big event, what's going on. I mean, last year we got people that were outdoor at the park and people were freaking out, calling me if somebody wasn't wearing a mask. This is going to be high profile because of the COVID. So be aware of that. And people have to know, they just have to follow the protocols in place. And right now, we look at it as outdoor event, 6 feet or a mask. That's it. You want to get in with the testing and then, that's required by the state, then that's another element of it, how many people you can have. That really dictates the people. But my understanding, I don't think it's ever going to change for the summer, is vaccinated or not, they're probably going to require a mask or 6 feet.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
So I would just go on that assumption at this point.
Right, I agree, and I think that for the event that would be the rule regardless of anything else at the time of place, because that's smart and that's what we should be doing. But I can say also that I did go to car shows this past summer of 2020, and they pushed the 150 person thing, and I don't know. So for instance, I went to one in Vermont and I went to one in Maine, and both were under the 150 thing, and that must have been a national, federal government thing. But everybody was very respectful. They stayed away from each other. But you did have groups that were not concerned with those rules.
Right.
They just walked around, did whatever, didn't wear their mask, wasn't worried about anything. So it's going to be hard to beat them into doing it right. But I can do my best, and I will have it be known that that's the rule of the land when they arrive, and my staff, my security staff, will be on top of it, because that's part of it.
You can ask people to leave if they don't adhere to the rules of your event.
That's exactly what it'll be. You'll have to.
You would ask them to leave if they were drunk or causing any other public nuisance or public health problem.
Correct.
And that's what this is. So you'd have to look at it the same way. I know it gets political. I know people get adamant. Then they don't have to be there. That's what our community is comfortable with. If we're going to do this event, we need to know that the public health and public safety is important.
Yes.
In this year in particular.
Yes.
It always has been for this event, but in this year in particular.
Absolutely.
Any other questions by the town board? This is something we'll mull over tonight and we'll vote on it tomorrow. We'll get a motion to vote on it tomorrow. Because this is a workshop meeting.
We have Mr. Valentine would like to say something.
Yeah.
Thanks. So yeah, I've been working at Bel Air all winter, so we've had a lot of crowds and a lot of issues. I just have a lot of experience with getting people to wear masks and the way that they've done it at the mountains. So Aaron, I shot you my contact information in the chat. Hit me up, because I could probably help you figure out ways to enforce it, and just the ways to encourage people to do it, and all the social distancing, just because of everything that we've done up at the mountain all winter. So I'm available if you need anything.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And Aaron, Val's a motorhead, so you'll love him.
Oh, good.
Motorcycle, but it's a little different. But Aaron's event is Volkswagen Audi.
I got a GTI VR6 Mark IV, so yeah, I'm
You're
right
there, baby.
Oh, yeah, you're definitely coming to that.
Yeah. All right, a couple of motorheads having fun here. All right, great. All right, Aaron, I think that's all we need. Does anybody else have a question? We're good?
I had one last question myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop. So the law, when you look at it closely, for the gatherings is 500 with the proof of COVID test. Okay. But
yes,
there's a side gig, and I want to make sure we don't confuse this when you guys pass it. The side gig is that it's also, or 33% of the venue's capacity. So when you look into that, try not to confuse my 1,000 person limit that the town has imposed as my capacity, because I could probably have 3,000 or 4,000 people in that field if it wasn't for the town's law of only 1,000.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make that clear so that I don't get told it's only 333.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, I would be a little more comfortable if we put a number on it. If we said 500, if you can adhere to the rules, 200 if you can adhere, whatever the number we come up with.
Right, which at this time is legal. And that would be perfect, Jim.
And I want to know that we don't hit is there a threshold of too low of a number where it's just not worth it to you? And we have our ideas of maybe 1,000 people is a little too much to have together at this time in COVID.
Right. Right. No, there is a number. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's probably somewhere just under 500, honestly, because at this point, it takes all those people, buying things and contributing and all that to make the whole cost of it get covered.
And I believe that would include your staff. So,
Right.
you
So
gotta have what, 30, 40, 50 people on staff?
I don't know. From the organizers I spoke to over the summer, and I talked to them to find these things out, their staff wasn't included in the attendee number. Now, it was some kind of loophole or something, and that they had, but I don't know if that counts for me or not. So if you guys could actually find that out for me, that would help too.
How many
'Cause then I
people
could
do you have
have
on
30
staff?
I'm sorry.
Well, how many people do you, an average, have on staff?
Well, on a
many
normal
people?
year, it's about 50 or 60.
Right.
But, with all this checking and, I'm going to need all these people just to there's going to be a line all the way down to Tedda's if we have to look at a piece of paper and figure out if it's you. And,
We're going to have to.
Right. So we're going to have to get all hands on deck for that. I don't
Okay.
know.
I just want to know, when we're coming up with a number, we can say, staff included or something like that. Okay.
Right. Well, right. That would be good to know, the total with staff. Right.
I'd hate to say 500 and then I get complaints, there's 1,000 people at Aaron's Lawn and you tell me 500 are on staff.
Yeah. 500 staff. We had one guest.
Yes.
That was me.
Whatever, yeah.
So Jim, I got a quick question on this. So we're sticking with, we're talking about the rules that Cuomo announced last week, I think, or beginning of this week. What if the rules change, say, 1st of April? Assuming they get more relaxed.
The language in the motion that we would have to put forth is that this event is contingent on the rules at the time of the event.
Okay, that's where I was.
You have to have that flexibility. I mean, if there's some, God forbid, some outbreak and the numbers go crazy in less than 2 months, I'd be surprised, but it could happen,
Well,
More people.
I think Drew was looking more at the numbers going up.
Oh, going up, yeah.
He's loosening up a little bit more.
So he could still say it's our normal amount, but
Right.
pending any health directions from the
Right.
state.
You could always leave it too, that he can come back, set your limit, but he can come back before the event to the meeting before if he can. He may not be able to because we only have April before the meeting.
Right.
And ask for more, to up his limit if he needs to.
Right, an expansion.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how these things work on the town level, but we could also have it read that it just reverts to what I already got approved for of 2020, and it's because this event is postponed because of COVID. So
What did
we
you get
already
for in
approved.
2020?
I'm sorry.
How many people did you get approved for in 2020?
The full town's limit of 1,000. That's what we, that's when Tom Vasta was the chief of police of Olive. He's the one who found that old law in the archives about 1,000 people maximum, and then he brought it in front of everyone, and that's how we all realized that was really truly what it was 1,000 people was the tops. That's it. So when we've talked all these years at the different board meetings, that's what it was. So I doubt that's going to happen where all of a sudden, it's going to be free reign. I think nothing ever happened. But we could write the language as such that if that was the case, then the limitation rule, which we're putting into place on tonight's meeting, would just be irrelevant. But I doubt that's going to happen.
Let us have a night to think about that. Chat amongst ourselves. I've never heard the town board upsell you. You just started at 500 and now pushing up to 1,000.
The other thing to keep in mind, at least from my point of view, the COVID cases, the active COVID cases in our county were going down. And in the last week, they more or less plateaued right around 1,600 with 22, 23 in our town. So, hopefully it'll change and continue to go down, but right now it's kind of plateaued.
Right. I'm more inclined to err on the side of caution on this, as everyone in town will tell you. So, let us think about this and come back to you. But I did want to get an idea what numbers you were thinking of.
Yeah, I think that the event would work at 500. I think if it's below that, I should cancel it.
Minimum 5. Okay.
Because honestly, it's just not worth all the effort. I'm gonna have to do all the work that it takes for 1,000 to show, but I'm not gonna get anything for it. I may even lose. Which is
Aaron,
done
you
losing.
charge more. You've created yourself a market condition for yourself. Okay, I think that's good. We have enough to think about, and we got a lot more to go on. So tomorrow we'll be here at 7 o'clock, and we'll have a regular meeting, and we'll bring it up again for a vote. Okay.
Should I join in and watch that too?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would. Yeah, why not?
In case we change our mind.
So we
I'll
can
be
watch your
quiet.
face when we figure out what we're saying. All right. You have a good night. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks everyone for listening.
All right. We only got about 2 more hours worth of stuff.
Oh.
All right. I do want to, we will be bringing up tomorrow a resolution to, I believe we already made the Conservation Advisory Council, the task force. But we will, because the other 2 resolutions of passing the CCA won't be available because we haven't had a public meeting. The OCAC wants us to appoint Matt Kovner as the coordinator for the Olive Climate Smart Community Task Force. So I have a resolution for that. Okay. That's one thing off our list. We're also going to have a resolution tomorrow for the landmark in Boyceville has asked to participate in the flood buyout program with New York City. They've sent us a letter. As you recall, in November, December last year, Maverick has also sent us a letter to participate. The flood insurance rates are sky high there for a mortgage. People have tried to sell the properties, develop the properties. It's really hard to do anything on those properties. So they've asked to be able to sell to New York City. So that will be on the agenda tomorrow. Is any discussion on that?
I did ask you this earlier today, but on the landmark, I know there's apartments there. Do you have any idea how many households would be displaced by this happening?
I do not.
Okay.
There are rentals in there. There's probably at least, I don't know how many are occupied. There's at least 4 apartments. But I don't know what the occupancy is and even if they're habitable. Okay. All right, that's there. We had, the next thing up is the task force. Unless there's anybody waiting for any, I don't think so. Town of Olive, under the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative, which was required under the New York State Executive Order 203 in June of 2020. We need to create a task force to look at our police department and community policing in the town of Olive, with a particular eye on racial bias, inherent bias, policies and procedures, all of that kind of stuff. We did 2 public meetings, one for public input, one after we developed a draft plan. I did some outreach to the police commission after that last public meeting as well for comments. And after the initial 70 hours of meetings that this task force had, we came up with a plan of action that I distributed to you guys. It's on the town website. And actually I have to update it with the new one. I am going to ask the town board to adopt that plan of action tomorrow. I'm not going to read it now. I think we've all seen it. You've all had the opportunity to see it. I would like to ask Dawn to send a letter to all of the members of the task force, thanking them for their service to the town and for the generosity of their time and efforts in creating this plan.
It was a lot of time.
It was a lot of time, and including the additional contributors, Tom Sharon and Bob Kraus from the Police Commission. Bob and Tom Sharon, the police officer from the school. They did a great job. It was a really, what I thought was going to be a really difficult process turned out to be a really enlightening process for people. It gave people who didn't know anything about policing the opportunity to hear what the policies and procedures are of the police department and get a better understanding of how police departments operate and the struggles that they have. And it gave the community an opportunity to voice their concerns and opinions about how they feel about policing. And especially one of the more interesting things that kept coming up was the amount of time when you get stopped by the police and a policeman comes out of his car and goes to your car, and that level of a few seconds of fear on both sides, and how that can go very wrong very quickly. And we discussed that. We talked about training for that. We talked about inherent bias training. And during the course of the 70 hours of meetings over a few months, the police department acquired body cams, and they have actually been using them in like a periodic review of people, which is become like a really great training tool to alleviate that tension. So you might have a review where on a rookie who comes up to a police, does a stop and goes up to a car, and you say, hey, you look very tense here going up to the car. If you look tense, you're going to create tension. And those kind of conversations with the different members of the stakeholders of this committee were really, really valuable, I found. I think it really opened up a lot of eyes on both sides of the policing and the public. And I really appreciated it. Those were difficult conversations, especially conversations about race. And as difficult and challenging as they were, nearly everyone came out of those meetings saying, that was great, thanks. Everyone. It was really remarkable.
And I think everyone ended up feeling really good about the plan that we created.
Yes.
A lot of thoughtful conversation went into the creation of that.
Oh, yes. Yes. So we'll bring that up tomorrow. Any other comments on it?
Yeah, I got one comment there, Jim. As the liaison between the town board and the police commission, I'd like to speak for the police commission. I think initially when they saw this, there was a little bit of pushback and concern, but I believe the police commission, all 3 members are fully on board with all 9 items on the task force plan.
Yep, we made some accommodations for their concerns, and I ran it through the task force, and everybody was good with that. They understood it.
Yep.
It was always a continuous ongoing dialogue where everyone's opinion was valued and listened to, and whether they could make 1 meeting or 10 meetings, whether they were appointed, elected, or, a single mom with 2 kids, who doesn't like getting stopped by men in the middle of the night with a flashlight in their face, that kind of stuff.
One of the things that was pretty remarkable was there was a lot of emotion around some of the things that we were talking about, and nobody shut down, which is usually what happens in my experience. So that was really great.
And I think it's important too that, this initial thing we have to get to satisfy the government, the governor in Albany. But I see this also kind of as a living document. As time goes on, we may need to add to it or polish it a little bit.
And part of the plan has an annual review and a public meeting to get more public input on how things are going on.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing I've seen that is disappointing is when you've had the public hearings, we didn't get a lot of public input.
Well, we live in a place that's really hard to get the word out.
Absolutely.
I can't knock on every door and ask people to come in. It's a shame. We're working on that we're building a better website. And part of the plan also was we have a guy now, a policeman who is now appointed as the social media coordinator and he goes out and, he's been looking on the Facebook page and making that a lot more interactive. So, and he's getting more views. So that's all good stuff, Okay. Dawn, you heard me ask for the letter, right? I did say that, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You're so quiet over there.
I'm muted.
Oh, there you go.
You're going to make a motion for that tomorrow night, correct?
Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow night.
Or you can do it tonight too. It doesn't matter, but.
All right, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter of thanks and gratitude to all of the members of the police task force. Do I have a second?
Second?
I'll
Dave?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I
All
knew
right,
that.
so you don't have to do that tomorrow night. I'll start
Take it off
working.
the list.
Okay?
Yep, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Okay. Let me, hold on a second. Let's go to this. Okay, we had a discussion last month. The planning board chairman, David Sorbellini, was interested in getting credits for some training that he took for a real estate license, and we came back and gave him 10 hours of credit. He also came back, and I think he made a really interesting point here, really valid point. The planning board, as you know, has been meeting twice a month. They have been just swamped with these subdivisions and very contentious issues. They have a consultant, a lawyer, legal consultant on with them over one subdivision, as well as an engineering firm. And much of what they've been doing lately has been, getting trained by those people on what they have to do. So he made a point of wondering if we could credit the planning board with credit for the training they're receiving during the course of their busy schedule. And I have no problem with it. I didn't know what you guys thought.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
Having sat through the meetings and been there with the various consultants, I totally agree. They're
Yeah, I'd
learning.
like some hours myself.
So,
I'm gonna give them a set amount then, so I can put it in the report.
I'm wondering if we want to do this now or tell them that we will, that we are interested in it and we will continue. I don't want to do it every 2 months, have to give them more hours. I'd like to look at it like maybe quarterly or every 6 months. Does that make sense?
I would say quarterly.
Quarterly? Okay. So that would be January, February, March, the
End
end
of
of March. Right. So
My only
yeah.
concern is that I'd still like to see them get some outside hours and
I
not
kind of
give
agree
all
with
their
that.
hours.
Well, they have to have 4 hours a year, is that right?
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of agree with David. I think I would like to see us limited to 3, so we encourage them to get at least 1 hour of some other training than, right now, all 7 are getting trained by the same person for the same project. It'd be nice
Yeah,
to get
some diversity.
diversity there.
Drew, what are the hours? Are there like 1 hour classes or what do most of the classes give you?
So like an hour and a half or 2.
Okay.
1 or 2.
So what do you guys want to do? Give them 2 for now and tell them we'll max out on that at 3?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's
Yeah.
what I would tend to say, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And mention that we want to encourage them for at least the other hour to get some other training on other subjects.
So that would fill their criteria for this year.
Well, they need 4.
They need 4, but I mean, that would give them close to their criteria for this year, but
Right.
it sounds like David's looking for more than just the 4 you're gonna, or the 3 you're gonna give them for this year. If you're gonna look at it at a quarterly basis, then,
I got to say that I look at it where the amount of time these volunteers are putting in per month,
Yeah.
relentlessly, I don't really feel well asking them to put more time in for training. I really don't.
Yeah, so skip,
That's actually a good point.
skip the quarterly review, give them their credits for this year, and we'll address it in 2022, sorry.
Skip the quarterly review.
I agree. I mean, they've actually,
That makes sense.
they've actually gotten more than 3 hours with consultants and trained by people already.
And if they're still in this Sailor Mill thing, they can look at it, you can look at it next year if they're still in it.
Yeah.
Probably will be.
You can give them their
Others will say
time
that.
served now.
There'll be more.
Because they have more issues coming up, and I would tend to give them. So you want to? Am I hearing this correctly? We all want to give them 4 credits for the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
If that's their requirement for the year, then yes, 4 credits.
Okay. Because I think it's a really important thing to encourage them to not feel like we're sticking it for another hour, because they're really putting it out there. I want to keep them on board. Okay.
So you'll make a motion tomorrow night for that?
For the year 2021.
Yes.
So we're also giving Dave Sorbellini credit for some of his courses that he took, right?
He's got so many credits, it doesn't matter. It's like an abstract dream. He's got 60 credits or something. I don't know why.
Right, but we agreed on some number, didn't we? At the last meeting?
10.
Yeah,
You already made that motion last.
right. So now he'll have 14, so we
Right.
won't need to do it.
Yeah, but he can use those 10 for other years when, right now we're in a boom, but he can use those 10 credits for the next, 3 years almost.
He will have enough credits through the rest of my lifetime.
They can apply them. I mean, Drew had so many when he retired, he could have shared them with the rest of the board.
Right.
Divvy them out, Drew.
But I think Jim makes a very valid point. Is they're putting in a huge amount of time. I don't really want to require them to put in more time for training that they don't need to.
I mean, you could waive the credits for a year. The town board has the right to not even require them to get training.
Right.
So it's a recommendation by the state. I think we waive it for this year, just because of the enormity of their task.
I think it's better to credit them the hours than to waive the hours.
Yeah.
So that we credit them with hours trained as opposed to waiving the training requirement.
Yes.
We're credit them for 4 hours.
Yes. Thank you for that.
And just for information, it's consistent with what happens with me on the county planning board. I have to get 4 hours training a year also, but we get a quarter hour of each meeting we attend because there is information and stuff going on at the meeting. So I wind up, if I attend all 12 meetings, I get 3 hours training
Right.
that way.
Right. So it's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all in agreement on that. We'll do that tomorrow night.
Okay.
Okay. We are going to make, tomorrow, we're going to make the motion to approve the signing of the contract with Cornell Cooperative, right, Brian? You're muted, I believe.
Yes, Jim.
Okay, you can mute. No, I think that's, I don't think there's much to discuss on that. We already discussed it. We approved the bids last meeting. I just need that motion. Do you have that contract? Brian?
Yes.
Okay. That your screen froze for a minute.
No, I think it did.
I was trying to be really freezy on mine.
No, I do have it.
Okay. Can you make sure I get that tomorrow so I have it
Yes.
when we make
It's
the
been
motion?
notarized and ready to send off. So absolutely.
Okay. I can't believe, I think we're almost through. Oh, no, we got to talk about the playground. Okay, as you know, our playground in Davis Park was damaged when a tree landed directly on it. It was unbelievable. And you couldn't have fallen that tree more accurately than the wind. The higher power just like didn't want that thing. So anyway, there is 4 quotes that we received for the playground. The playground was made by a company named Miracle, and we found that it was a really good quality playground. How old was that playground, Scott? Like, I don't know.
1994.
1994, and it was in good shape. So we decided that that was like really good value. So we went back to Miracle, and they gave us 2 quotes for 2 different varieties of playground, 2 different configurations. And then we also got 2 more quotes. Gene did a lot of work on this with Rebecca. One from, where the heck is my notes here? Game Time, and one from Pro. And you guys took a look at that, right? I sent that out to you.
Yes.
The rec committee is recommending Miracle option number 1. And what they liked about that was that it was spread out in a longer distance that gave more room for people to play in and around it, on it and stuff. So that one came out at $64,984.18. The option 2 was around 59, almost 60,000. I do have a cover letter here. The Miracle quote was almost 65,000. I'm sorry. The Game Time quote was almost 66,000, and the Pro Playgrounds was 37,000. But that did not include the labor. The other prices included the labor. We look at this, and we really want to go with that one option for number 1 for the 64,984.18. Any comments or questions? They did a lot of homework on this, a lot of research. Gene really did a great job. Met with the two of the vendors out there. One did a online.
Scott, the 2 photos that were included with the proposals, is that option 1 and 2? Those 2 different photos?
No, it's the front side and back side, I believe.
One of them. Is that option 1?
The green one is option 1, and you have 2 photos of it. There were
Okay.
other photos as well provided by that company. Maybe I didn't include them in my email, that were like red, white, or red, yellow, and blue.
The first one you see there is the, what was the name of that company? Game Time.
So
And the second one, the second and the third are the same one, just the front and back.
Okay.
That's the one that you're recommending?
And that's the one you're going with?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very appealing on paper.
Very much so.
The
Very
fact that it's spread out is nice.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
But does that price include them putting it together, or do we have to put?
Yes, no, that's labor included.
Good.
So it's, I did lead you guys to believe at the last meeting that we had more insurance. There was a little bit of a snafu, and we're still trying to figure out what happened. We thought we had more insurance on this, so we were thinking we're gonna get around 39,000. We've yet to work out what we're gonna get on this
Yeah,
from the insurance
I noticed that when I was reviewing the bills.
Yeah.
And
That's going to make up the difference, right?
let's just put it this way. There's an in-office investigation going on that has me head scratching. I just don't understand it. Somewhere along the line, there was communication loss, and things didn't follow through. Whether I'll take the blame for it. It's probably me. The COVID thing has just gotten people. It's hard to stay on track of things. And the interoffice stuff. It's easy to think something's gotten done elsewhere.
When will we know the amount?
What's that?
When will we know the amount that the insurance company is going to give us?
I don't know that.
Okay.
But we have this in reserves, and we can replenish it with that, I believe. All right.
And we're aiming for mid-May.
Yes, that's the other thing. We
Yeah.
want to get this in as soon as possible.
Great.
Because the kids are lining up waiting to get in.
Yeah, we already have a neighborhood group ready to help us
Yeah.
get up shovels and start digging if we need them to.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, people wanted to raise money for it. It was like, that's just gonna take, we won't get that done until next year if we do that, you know? So we're gonna
Gino
put this
said
in.
there were people playing on the old one still.
Yes.
He said he went there and a woman had her grandkids on the old one.
One in pieces.
Yep. Yeah, the kid
Now with
on
your kid, that might be more interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
We'll approve this
That's-
tomorrow night, Jim? Is that,
What's that?
we'll approve this tomorrow night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. I think we have to go into executive session now.
Are we approving the septic?
The septic.
Oh, the septic. Oh, man, how did that not get on there? Thank you.
Did you get the insurance for Andrew Eberhart, Dawn?
Yeah.
I emailed it out to you guys, and actually, he did bring in the references, and but Jim had realized that Chad didn't have his references, so the references and qualifications didn't seem to matter, but I did send them, I sent the insurance paperwork out.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
So they're on an apples to apples comparison at this point. And one bid came in, Chad Davis was at $34,590. And Andrew Eberhart came in at $24,895, which was, you know, a substantial difference.
Yeah.
And they're both from West Shokan. So that's kind of nice. So we will, unless there's some objection, probably go with the lower bid. And then we'll send it into CWC and get things moving. Any comments? Questions?
Good with me.
That has to be in, that has to be done, I think, let me just say, I put on the RFP, we're hoping, bear with me here. Oh, I think on the, you know what, I thought there was a date that it had to be done by in the RFP, but I don't see it.
I think you did at the end, the last page, maybe?
You know what, I might not have the second page.
I don't have it with me to tell you, so.
I thought it was.
Wait a minute, oh, no, hold, I got it. June 18th.
Oh, okay.
So June 18th, we should have it complete.
Oh,
Which is a septic repair, which includes a new tank, a new field on the, in the park, right when you go in the park by the walkway, by the town offices there. And then there's an existing stormwater drain there, and that will get relocated and tied in with the other one, and they will deposit to a dry well on the opposite end of the park by the road, by Watson Olive.
I have a quick question for Brian. Brian, did you read the quotes? Did you look at them?
Yes, I did.
You see any reason not to go with Eberhart on this, being the lower price?
No, I think it's a good price, and I don't have any.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes, there's another thing here. Boy, I really screwed this up. Pool fees. The rec department, rec committee went over the pool fees. I'll send this to you tomorrow. We talked about it at the last meeting. We are going to keep the short-term rental properties at $500 a year. Individuals, 50, 100 for a family that has restrictions on how many people. And then daily rates, I think they stay the same, $3. Resident with children is $2 and guests are $5. You have to be a resident of the town of Olive to attend the pool. And if you are in a short-term rental, you have to have, the short-term rental has to have a season pass. Unless they pay, I think they might get in on the other if they have the letter. I think the idea was to keep the in a transitionary period, keep the rate that we had last year, which was you could pay the day rate to come in if you have a letter from the owner with saying that you're a renter. Is that right, Scott? I believe that's what Gene told me.
Maybe long-term renter, but not short-term.
That needs to be clarified, but the rates will be the same. So Gene was I was a little bit like sketchy on that with Gene. I was like, what?
Something doesn't seem right there either. So.
If you show up if you're doing an STR and you show up at the pool with your family and they're ready to go swimming and you said, I was here last year and all I had to do was pay for that. You know, we have to have a way to not necessarily turn everyone around, but we do have to, it's really hard to enforce it for $500 at this point without the short-term rental law in place and without having access to the county yet. I can get access to the county, but other supervisors have told me it's a really inaccurate list. So we have to do a little, this is what we'll go with and we'll try to make this work, but there might be a season where there's a little bit of give and take on it. Okay. We will be approving someone for the fire department tomorrow night. And
the police department guy, right?
Oh, in the police department, yes. God damn it, I missed it. And the police department.
Are we swearing that person in? The police department, we should be swearing in, right?
He should be, yeah.
Yeah.
You better get Judge Cox on the case here.
Well, if he doesn't come on, I can do it. I just prefer to have him do it.
And we should notify the applicant too.
Yeah, I need to touch base with Sean and find out if, make sure the applicant's gonna be online tomorrow night.
Drew, can you do me a favor and resend that email to me, please?
Sure.
When you get a chance. Okay. I believe we go into executive session.
Jim, you got anything else you're discussing afterwards or no?
No.
I just wanted to discuss with the board that truck I mentioned Friday, payment of the 2021 Western Star. I just to bring the board up to speed. I ordered this truck. It was approved by the board. Ordered December of 2019. COVID and everything else going on. It's taken forever to get this truck outfitted. A lot of the stuff coming over the borders delayed this immensely. Originally, my mindset here was to get some of these vehicles replaced. This truck would have been a down payment out of our reserve and then financed over the course of 2 years. As of right now, I'm behind the 8 ball again, just because of delivery on this truck. And I was looking to see, originally there was going to be a down payment of 149,000 and change out of our reserve for down payment. What I would like the board to consider is paying this truck off out of our equipment reserve, which is in pretty good shape. Stands at $674,739.86 right now, in efforts to remain on replacing these vehicles and equipment. That's one particular one that we're cycling out as a bad frame, and it's the last year of service. I have another truck that is a 1978 vintage plow truck, runs in the wintertime, and I need to seriously look into replacing that one. We're having issues getting replacement parts. We've been dealing with a used outfit up in Maine for used items, and in conversation, our mechanics have been speaking with McLean as the vendor, and these trucks the parts are becoming obsolete. But my intent here in trying to cycle some of this unsafe equipment out that's been in the salt world for a number of years, but I would ask the board's approval to pay for this truck in entirety out of
What's the full cost?
239,000, or I'm sorry, $229,232. So that would end up leaving a balance in our machinery reserve of $445,507.86.
Makes sense to
So
me.
you don't want to finance any of it.
I do not, because I said I'm already, it wouldn't make sense, and we're probably not going to get financed for, it doesn't really make sense and it cost effectively in the savings end of it, financing 40,000, you know, because
Yeah.
basically we'd be on, if we were to make the down payment, it doesn't make sense to make another installment the same year you're making the down payment, which puts me another year behind, is what I'm getting at. In replacing this equipment.
Paying cash if we got it.
Yeah.
That our reserve, our machinery reserve is in pretty darn good shape now, so I would.
What is the usual range of our reserve?
It's varied. I've put a fair amount in over the last several years, as well as into our bridge reserve for making payments on a lot of these grant apps and whatnot. So
how low has it been, Brian? Is what I'm asking.
you know what? I'd have to look at that again. The lowest it's been, I think, was somewhere around 200 and change.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Have we had a conversation with Janice about this?
I spoke with her last, I don't know if it was Thursday, I guess it was Thursday or Friday, in respect to that. And I did not have any negative feedback from her. If you guys would like to converse with her before you make a decision as well, but I really think where we stand with equipment right now, it's in the best interest. I'd love to push it out, but I think it's in the best interest right now, given what's needs to be replaced and what's becoming obsolete part-wise there.
So are you starting to look at things to replace this 78 truck?
Yeah, I've actually been
I
throughout the
imagine,
year. Yeah. And we recently, just why I'm really looking hard right now is we had some front end steering components that are rebuildable right now, but are no longer available, and that truck will not remain in service if we cannot keep it safe.
Absolutely.
And we do have a spare truck. The spare truck is a 2-wheel drive truck, and this truck is a 4-wheel drive truck that hits the mountains in Sampsonville, Freeman Avery, Tabor Road. They're nasty, nasty roads. So something I'm really trying to find a replacement for that.
Do you have a new estimate on when the new truck is going to finally be available?
As I'm told, probably the end of this month.
Oh, great.
Great.
Finally.
Just in time for the season to end. Great.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been hearing about this truck since I joined the board.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tomorrow you'll be looking for a motion to approve that?
Yes.
Okay.
So we didn't put any down payment on this last year?
No.
Okay.
Not we've never going through the financing end of it on the 2020 until we take delivery. I wouldn't.
Right.
Okay.
And this is a prime example, Drew. It's over over a year and several months here, you know.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? Comments on the truck?
It's good.
I am going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion of a particular person or corporation. How's that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Hold on, who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, so you're going in to discuss the employment?
Of a particular person or corporation.
Okay,
So I'm going to put everybody that's not on the board in the waiting room where you can drop off.
Bye, Brian.
Have a good night.
Bye, Brian. Bye, Eric.
Thank you.
Bye, Eric.
all right. So listen, you don't need me, right?
Oh, I wouldn't put it that way, but
Well, you have to either let me stay or kick me off, but if you kick me off, then, and you're gonna be a while, I'm going upstairs.
okay. And then when we come out, we'll just make a motion to end the meeting.
And keep track of the time and tell, and who made the motions for me.
Okay.
Okay.
So
You
you
know,
don't.
and we'll have the recording, so we can, if we forget, I'll go back
Okay,
and listen to the
I
recording.
can check that, that's right.
Yep.
All right, so I am going to say goodnight then.
Good night,
Good night,
Dawn.
Don. Thanks.
Just remember, you gotta make any decision in court, I'm sorry, that's my whole court day. In meeting tomorrow night, if you make any decisions.
Great.
All
Exactly.
right,
Thank you.
all right, good night, guys.
Good night, Beck. Okay, we're in executive session. We should stop the recording for the executive session
Oh.
and start it
Yeah, you're right.
when we go out, so it doesn't go out there that we're talking here and end up on the website tomorrow.